Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review 10 things I hate about you. Because I'm down, I have the 411, and you ain't getting jiggy with anyone, I don't care how dope their right is. Take number 174. I got it this time. Whew, that was a relief. So, 10 Things I Hate About You is to be a movie that at some point went on to do a show. Never watched an episode of the show. If it seems that people are to have been rather interested in the show also, maybe I'll go on and check that out at some point, because I'd never gone on to watch a single episode of it, because I think instead of going on and watching that, I watched more of How I Met Your Mother. And so for this movie, I gotta feel that there is so many memorable things going on in this film that a lot of people during that time like took and quoted and whatever. And this movie, like, strangely enough, I think should be focusing on Cameron and Bianca, but it stays so focused on Patrick and Kat instead. Like, I get it. Like, they are the probably more interesting couple because we have a couple who is to be very rebellious or very much in your face about how much they don't care. Whereas kind of Cameron and Bianca are just the normies, the normal couple. So, like, they're not as intriguing as both Pat and Kat here. So, this movie, of course, is a high school movie. There is some stereotypic stuff that goes into this film, like in the early stages. We'd have Cameron that is to be toured around what is to be the certain kind of classes within this high school, where we have like the Barb Marley guys and the jocks and the this and that. And at some point, we then turn around and then have this be a date movie. Who's gonna date first? Who's gonna go on and make it to a absurd event that they actually hate, but they're going to eventually turn around into it at the end simply because their sister wants them to so badly. But it is kind of funny how Kat is to really just be thinking that Bianca is to really be interested in Joey, but then like really Kat doesn't really know Bianca all that well because Bianca is actually interested in Cameron. And so and also the funny thing about Joey, it's like, I think when I saw this originally, I was like, man, like, Joey, it's been a long time since Camp Nowhere. He's seen Camp Nowhere? Maybe. Wink, nudge, nudge. Christopher Lloyd? It's been a while. I know there was another camp movie that I think had, like, Ben Stiller or something in it. I don't know. It's been a while. He's seen other camp films? Probably. I don't know. I've seen a lot of stuff in my life. More so that I probably forget that I've even seen, more so than remembered. But anyways, going into this film, again, it becomes a date movie, and we'd have, I think Walter is going on and stating that Bianca can date when Kat does. And by the end of the film, we have like Walter going on and stating to Kat, it's like, well, yeah, like normally, Kat lets me kind of hit a couple innings, but Kat always has me ride the bench. But yeah, so this is a very traditional high school movie. It all is a transition into eventually Kat going into Sarah Lawrence and Bianca and Cameron at some point sailing. But everything, of course, in between is to, of course, be so iconic. We, of course, have Patrick, who is to go on and be getting money for these dates. At first, it goes from $50 to $100, but he is to ultimately not care about the money. He cared about Kat. And wow, what a very much like poetic Shakespearean way about going about this movie. And is to also be very musical, very enjoyable, soundtrack wise. Like this has to be probably top 5 best like soundtracks. Interestingly enough, "Cruel to Be Kind," "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You," the very much songed uh, thing being put in this film. Also, I think that song was to also be used in Scream 2. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but you can correct me if I'm incorrect. But so, maybe they stole it from this film. But either way, yeah, like Bogey's Party and A Clunk on the Head, all of this stuff is just really rather fun, and there's a lot to dissect here. There's a lot to get into, and really, at the end of the day, I think it's time to also grade this film. This film, I think, man, I feel like I feel it's very difficult to grade this film because, like, I want to grade this severely very high, but then I'm like, I don't know if I should go that high because it's freaking great. Uh, like, I want to go on and say that like, it's probably one of the better high school movies, if not the best high school movies, because like it really is a very well-rounded cast, but then also like there's individual characters that I feel are very good. Of course, you have the dad that is like bringing so much freaking comedy, but then also the two main characters here are to, of course, be knocking it out of the park. Um, but then there's also like the little side characters, like the guidance counselor in the early part of the movie, that I think is to really set up this school very well. That like nobody gets an F. Like, come on, like this school isn't the school you expect. This story isn't the story you expect, and this is not another high school movie kind of thing. Yeah, like expectations are really just changed in this film. So I think my ultimate grading is probably to be that this movie is epic. And really, if people have never gone on and seen this film, like I think they have to. Like they are missing out. Like because they've probably gone on to see this high school movie. You've probably seen like a Breakfast Club, or you've probably gone on to see 16 Candles, all the real just iconic things. Pretty in Pink, I'm sure, is probably a high school thing. I don't know. It's Some Kind of Wonderful. It's There's probably a huge batch of just uh, movies that would be very much almost like Rob-comish and whatever. But this movie's epic. Where can you go on and find it? I think that it was either I think it was either available on like Hulu or Paramount or something. I don't know. But I'm going to go on and give you a list of apps that you can, in fact, watch a lot of these movies for absolutely free beyond these 10 things right here. I am going to go on and let you know that you can go to an app called Zelifonic, Zelivonic. You can go into this and see movies for free on your Google Play Store. You can also go on, for mobile users, to also go into apps there. In fact, hopefully these are still listed in the Google Play Store somewhere. Movie Box. Movie Box. Also, there is to be an app called Manic, Mannic. And then hopefully you're guaranteed to check out a number of things also free. Last one, you can go through a Google search and download an APK for a app called HDO Box. All these things for free. You'll go on and see movies with apps, but there, in fact, you're kind of doing that anyways with a number of other things. So it's just the same old, same old. But let's not get too old on ourselves and get into full-on spoilers. Because legitimately, I think that, like, in a roundabout way, I was to go on and just kind of talk about this movie. But, like, more than likely, if you really want to go on, you know, the full deep dish action of this entire film, and blow for blow, so to speak, I think it's about time to go into spoilers. Yeah, like, the movie is very simple. It's simple to explain. It's another date film. It's another high school movie. And check out the soundtrack. Cool to be kind. I don't know the rest of the words. It's just cruel to be kind. Or cool to be kind, or cruel to be kind. You can correct me in the comments also. I love those comments. Anyways. But either way, I'll just say that it's a really good song. So, with that said, I think it's about that time to pause this review, because it's about that time yet again. To pause this review, get out my cast list, and insist myself upon giving you all the nitty gritty. So, let's pause here, and let's go on. Whoops. Alrighty then. One interesting thing about this movie also, that I completely forgot about, is that Joseph Gordon-Levitt had talked about that he wasn't at all interested in doing this film. He was honestly wanting to go on and do serious roles. And it seems that his agent and everybody was telling him, it's like, well, no, like, you gotta do this film. Like, you got, and, like, it's such a pop culture thing now, and it's such a huge, iconic movie that, yeah, like, regardless of how, like, Joseph was to just not want to be really interested in this role, he eventually did audition for it, and he auditioned for Cameron and Michael, like Cameron's sidekick character, and yeah, he just got Cameron. So yeah, so it all worked out in the end, I guess, because people got jobs. So in the very beginning of this, we would of course have everybody kind of getting into high school, as we have these kind of very preppy girls going on and singing these bare naked lady songs, and we would turn to this other car that is, I don't give a damn my reputation, and we'd have that be Kat just going on like, like, look at you, like, ugh. So she's making her way into school, is to immediately see this Padya prom song, or Padya prom sign, little piece of paper. She tears it off, puts it in the ground, and the girl's like, hey! It seems that every time she used to rip that off, the exact same girl is to find her and just be like, hey! Hey! I put some effort into that. So we transition to have Cameron. He's the new kid in school, it seems, because we always, in every single high school movie, We always have to have the new kid in class, it seems. Like, that seems to be the broken record of every single high school movie. Or every story, eventually, that is to be done with high school within it. There's always the new kid. So, he's, of course, speaking with Miss Perky, the guidance counselor, and she's to go and kind of clear up any misconceptions that this is to be a high school that he is to be familiar with, and instead have seemingly a huge pile of wet paper towel be flung upon her window, and Miss Perky gives them the finger. It's like, yeah, this is not what you should be expecting in a high school. So Cameron leaves, and Patrick walks in to the office, and it seems that that office is to be filled with Patrick wanting to talk about how he was to flash his member, and Patrick was to have gone on and stated it's like, no, like, it was just a bratwurst, and Miss Perky's like, well, hey, next time just keep it in your pants. So Miss Perky, it seems, is writing some kind of seductionist, passionate novel, and she's going on and replacing words like bratwurst. And she's trying to figure out what engorged could actually be emplaced with. So Cameron leaves the guidance office and makes his way to Michael. Michael's like, oh yeah, I guess I'm gonna be the tour guide today. I guess I'm gonna go on and be the guy that helps you understand more of this high school. So Michael goes on and is to start kind of stereotypically, like, going on and telling him about the jocks, and then the Bob Marley kids. They're just always high and otherwise just bizarrely of dreadlockish hair. But then at some point is to guide Cameron to Joey. Joey, who has gone on and done some underwear stuff, some very regional modeling, and really is to just narrow down that guy is a douchebag. But so, the two of them are all of a sudden to have this tour simply be by Bianca's presence. To where Cameron is just like, oh my god, I yearn for her. And Michael is to go on and say, like, oh, no. Like, she's conceited. Like, no. Don't go for that one. And Cameron is just like, no, I must have her, kind of thing. So we transition on to Mr. Morgan's class. Mr. Morgan is going on and talking about Hemingway, I believe it is, and there is to be a discussion upon it, and immediately we have Kat turn and just be very upset with Hemingway, and is going on to talk about horrible things about him, and that of course leads Mr. Morgan to belittle Kat, as well as Joey is, because Joey always have to throw some shade on Kat. And Mr. Morgan goes on to just be like, you know what, I'm just sick of you. Just go to Miss Perky. Just go to the guidance counselor. No, just now, Perky now. That also is to be the blooper when you see later on. Perky now. Start the scene over again. Come on. So, like I said, we meet up with Miss Perky, and she's trying to figure out what is to be a thesaurus word for engorged. So she goes on and asks another woman out the outside about whether or not she can figure out another word for that. And so Kat makes her way in and is to get a bit of a chat going. And Miss Perky is to even have a mug that has a cat on it. And she's like, "Hey, Kat." So Miss Perky is trying to give some guidance to Kat and be like, "Hey, man, you need to turn this around. Like, come on, Kat. Like, everybody's just sick of your shit. Like, come on, get it together." So, so Kat of course leaves and then tells Miss Perky what alternative word could be for engorged. She's like, "Oh, I like that." So it seems that we're having almost everybody leave for the day. Or no, wait, getting a little ahead of myself. Uh, Joey and his friend are kind of gawking at Bianca and Charity. I think it's Chastity, and I think it's I think I didn't have the IMD rollout for that one, but Bianca and Chastity are rolling by, and so Joey and his friend are going on like, like I want me some of that Bianca, and so Joey is like, well, yeah, I'm gonna get that girl, and his friend's like, no, I don't think you will, and they bet money on it, and Joey's like, dude, I have money, like I'm just gonna do this for fun. This is to go on and be a very much like She's All That, where Freddie Prinze Jr. does the whole bet thing, and at some point, like the guy who I think is Paul Walker in that film. I'm getting really confused with Not Another Teen Movie because like they kind of take that scene and run with it. Uh, but yeah, so uh, Joey then goes on and is to see Bianca and Charity after again giving more crap to Kat, and is to drive up on Bianca and Charity, and is like, "Hey, you need a ride," kind of thing. So Kat and Bianca seem to be disinterested, and so let's move on here. So we'd have Walter, who is making his way to his daughters, and I'm trying to double check here if it even is Walter. I've probably been saying this name for how many times now. Yes, luckily it is. I quicked through that cast list and probably regretted it afterwards. But so Walter strolls on in, and it seems that, of course, Walter is to consistently mention how he is to have delivered a baby in the world because he is to be that kind of doc. So that is to, of course, be the one worry that his daughters are going to at some point get knocked up. So if at any point he is to go on and like, where are the belly? You got to know what your decisions will make. But so, again, getting a little ahead of myself. But Walter strolls on in, and at some point we'd have Bianca and Kat together, and Bianca is finally bring up, it's like, well, hey, like, I want a date, and Walter is like, well, you're not gonna date till you're done, till you graduate, and Bianca's just like, no, so Walter is just like, okay, like, let's figure something out here. Like, how about Bianca, you can date? Yes, Daddy, when your sister does. And then she's like, oh. And then so Kat is to come to find out she is accepted into Sarah Lawrence as she is to get this thing in the mail. And she's like, oh my God, going to Sarah Lawrence. And Walter is just like, well, I thought you were going somewhere local, so I can keep more of an eye on you. Uh, but the more and more that this is to go on, the more and more they're to get very much upset for one another. And so Kat storms off. And so, but Bianca is still upset with Kat to just be like, well, hey, like, uh, can't you just go on and find some freak to date you? Yeah. Um, so Cameron is to find out from Michael that Bianca needs a French tutor. So Cameron is to master craftingly need to quickly learn French to go on and try and tutor Bianca here. So Cameron goes on to meet up with Bianca, but this is all just a ploy for him to go on and ask her. It's like, do you like sailing? Like, do you like this? Do you like it? And Bianca, of course, to be very upfront and just be like, well, like I can't date until my sister does. And so Cameron's like, I have to come up with some master plan to figure that out. So Cameron is to turn around and go with Michael and collect together some candidates. And the two of them go on and they start questioning all of these guys like, well, hey, would you ever date Kat? And they're like, no, all that. I'm outie 5,000. Goodbye, everybody. And the more and more they ask somebody, like one of them is like, well, yeah, maybe if it was like the end of the world and the two of us were the only ones together, will there be aliens and this that? So Michael and Cameron are realizing that this is just a losing battle. Like nobody's insane enough to want to equal Kat's rebellious nature or just not give a about it. But then both Cameron and Michael are in their science class. They're dissecting a frog, and they come upon a very healthy candidate that is lighting his fingers aflame, and that ends up being Patrick. Patrick was who have also, when they were talking earlier about Hemingway, he was to just kind of show up in class and then disappear. So, like, this is to immediately help us understand what kind of guy Patrick really is. He doesn't care about anything. And then also, Patrick is to be at a bar, but he's a high school student. He's drinking a bar, or bar? He's drinking a bar. This is a bar, everybody. He's drinking a beer, and he's a high school student. So uh, they just must be very accepting of a kid of his age just drinking at this bar for some reason. That scene didn't quite make sense to me, but I guess it just had to be a unique place for them to meet later on. But Cameron and Michael mention about this duck story, and eventually they clear it up later in the film. But Cameron and Michael, the more that they're just kind of like naturally against Patrick, they're like, well, he's clearly the only one. So Cameron and Michael meet with Patrick at this woodshop class and immediately strike out when asked about this, or when asking Patrick about this. And Patrick goes on and grinds through Cameron's French book. So Cameron and Michael make the decision that they need some kind of backer. They need some person that's stupid enough that is to be willing to go along with giving Patrick more of incentive to date Kat while they take full advantage of it after the fact and date Bianca. So Michael ends up meeting up with Joey. Joey is just scribbling what I'm assuming is chest pecs, right? A man's chest pecs, I'm sure, right? And then is to also draw a big, huge, massive ding along. Wang! Slim Jim? It probably could be Slim. Right upon Michael's face. But so, Michael ends up talking to Joey and is to, of course, state, like, well, yeah, like this is the whole, like, bet going on with, or this is the whole thing going on with Bianca and Kat, and like, hey, if you go on and you grease Patrick's wheels, then you can go and you can date Bianca. And Joey is looking at Michael. It's like, well, why are you telling me all this? And Michael is like, well, I just want to really be cool. And so Joey's like, oh, so you want to be just cool by association? As Michael states, is like, well, yeah, like if I wave at you, you wave back. So Joey takes upon himself at this kind of little track and field to grease the wheels, let's just say, of Patrick. So Joey meets up in his tank top. Why he has to have a tank top on right now, I don't know, but he just does. So there's a lot of things that I think, in all actuality, like, I think, like, are we trying to have this actor really just try to look as best as he can to just go on and do other things? I don't know what's going on here. But anyways, so Joey meets up with Patrick and is to be like, hey, you know Kat, right? Patrick's like, yeah, like we have class together. I just saw her earlier today. So Joey ends up offering at first like $30 to date Kat, and Patrick is just like, oh well, that's all well and good, but like really the date with all of the popcorn and the candy and this and that, like that'll probably be like $75. You got $75, right, Joey? And Joey's like, and Patrick's okay, 50. And Joey takes it. It's like, all right. So the deal is made. Bizarrely, like Joey had like a bet going, and he probably should have taken that money because by the end of all this, like this is costing like hundreds of dollars, it seems. Especially when we see Patrick blow away that money on so many things in this film. We're questioning like how much money did he get, but then also like did he get all that money while he was in Milwaukee? Who knows? But so both Bianca and Kat are in the bathroom together, and they're both one another just kind of putting one another down, uh, accusing Bianca of being too nerdy, and of course Bianca doing quite the same with Kat. So at some point, Bianca is wearing their mother's pearls, and so Kat brings it up. It's like, well, why are you wearing our mother's pearls? And Bianca's like, well, like Dad just found it in a drawer somewhere, and so I thought I would go on and wear it because I thought it would look good on me. And Kat's like, No, it doesn't. So, Bianca, or Bianca, Kat is leaving, I believe, Gil's Music. And she's leaving this guitar store and is to be met by Patrick. Patrick is going on to uh, immediately try to figure out a way to spark conversation to legitimately just say, like, oh yeah, like, I bet you want some of this. And Kat is just like, oh yes, I need you, I want you, ooh baby, ooh baby. And Kat is just like, no, get away from my car. So Kat gets into her car to realize that Joey is seemingly parked right behind her, and Joey walks out of his car, and Kat's like, well, can you move? And he's just like, no, I'm like, I wish I could. So Kat smashes right into Joey's car, and Joey backs up and he's like, oh my god, my car. So back at the home, we have Walter who's looking at Kat, and he's like, do you think my insurance is gonna pay for that little accident of yours? And Kat is telling Walter, it's like, well, just tell him I had a seizure or something. So I'm thinking that there's more here, but I forgot what it was. So we have Joey who's going on and meeting up with Patrick, and I think that this is all about, like, hey man, uh hey, why aren't you like dating this girl yet? This and that. Like, hey man, like, I paid you good money. And Patrick is just like, well, whatever. So both Cameron and Michael meet up with Patrick, and they're going on to tell, like, Patrick, like, hey, we know what you're doing, and we're gonna figure out a way to help you out. And Patrick is like, well, like, why would you want to do anything like that? And they tell him the truth. It's like, well, yeah, we're gonna try and date uh, Bianca, or Cameron's gonna try and date Bianca instead of Joey. And Patrick Patrick is just like, okay, like, let's figure this out. So both Cameron and Joey are putting together a party at Bowie Loganstein's to get revenge on him, but then also like it's a thing that they can figure out a way to get like a possible scenario of Kat going out with Patrick and Bianca with possibly Cameron. So bleh. So where am I here? So both Cameron and Bianca are eventually to come up with this master plan of, like, well, okay, we'll just kind of sneak into a room and kind of grab some specific things that we can use against her to have Patrick know about Kat, so that way, like, he'll be the perfect date. So Bianca ends up telling Cameron, it's like, well, like, whoever she's to date, like, he can't smoke, and uh, and he has to be pretty, because she was to go on and spot that Kat was to really like a certain actor, and so it's like, oh, so she likes that kind of guy. Yeah. So Bianca, when kind of stooping in Kat's room, find out that she has a pair of black undies, underwears, panties, and Cameron is to go on and like, oh, like, is there a significance about that? And Bianca is just like, well, like, she wants to have some sex soon, or sex eventually. And Cameron is just like, okay, all right, like, legitimately, you should just be buying any panties. It shouldn't matter the legitimate color, but uh, that's the guy in me. So, anyways, the guy that is 100% everybody. 100%, 110, maybe 15. I don't know. Anyways, so they got all this stuff together, and they go to the bar. So all this is to go on and reiterate what they just found out from Bianca. And so, oh, also, I believe Joey had tried to ask Bianca out to Bogey's party, and she's like, well, I might go. I think she was also looking at a bunch of uh, like photos that he did as well. Um, and both of them look the exact same. It was hilarious. So, back at the bar. So, Cameron and Michael are talking to Patrick, and they're going and telling him it's like, oh, like here's the music that she likes. She doesn't like any smokers, and Patrick is like, oh, well, I guess that's out. And like, well, yeah, like she likes pretty guys. And Patrick's like, oh, I'm not pretty. And they're just like, oh, yeah, yeah. They're like, nah, whatever. So yeah, so they figure out where Kat's going, uh and and pushes Patrick to go there as well. It's like, yeah, she's gonna be at Club Skunk tonight, and Patrick's like, oh, I wouldn't be dead at Club Skunk, but he goes there anyways to meet up with Kat, who is also with her friend, who, of course, my name of that character escapes me, so I need the cast list. Mandela. Man, that is a awful name. Well, I got the I don't know, but I guess I can remember that now. So at Club Skunk, we'd have Patrick that's just kind of strolling around and is to be listening to this band as we make our way into Club Skunk. Bizarrely, this place, for how I question if it's a legitimate place or not, there is to be quite a bit of signs like telling you what this place actually is. So if it's not an actual place, that's actually hilarious. Uh, but so Pat makes his way to the bar, and Kat is to be listening to this song with Mandela, just kind of just dancing it out, and is to make her way to get drinks and sees Pat at the bar. So Kat and Patrick strike up a conversation, and so Kat is like, Patrick, like, are you really just here to just hit on me again and try to get a date out of this? And Patrick ends up saying, it's like, well, like, I saw you and your friend dancing there. I've never seen a woman look so sexy. And then all of a sudden music stops and like, and Patrick is just like, ugh. But so Patrick is just kind of begging Kat at this point. It's like, come to Bogey's potty with me. And Kat is just like, oh, like, So, back at the house, we have Walter, who is uh, who is going on to see both Bianca and Chastity, and they're of course leaving for uh, to get ready for Bogey's party. And Walter is just like, no, like you know the rules. And so, but Kat is also leaving for Bogey's party as well. And by the time that she answers the door, she finds Patrick there, and Patrick's like, "Oh, like yeah, like 7:30," and Kat was like, "Well, yeah, but I'm driving." And he's like, "Oh, okay, all right." So Walter now like, "Oh my god, it started." Walter looks at Bianca. It's like, "You gotta wear the belly," and Patrick looks at Bianca. It's just like, who knocked up your sister? Uh, so Cameron and Michael are also getting ready, and Michael ends up doing this hilarious thing. It's so hilarious, believe me. I'm getting ready to just tell you, but heaven forbid I actually remember what it actually is. But so it's funny though. It really is. Anyways, so Bogey is to be with its mates. Very, uh, very much a man who is to have class. He is to have gone on and smacked a golf ball, and somebody is to just be down with this basket trying to catch it right at that track and field in the early part of this movie. So Bogey is to think that this is going to be Nigel with the brie, and instead is to have the swarm of people just smash into him. The DJ uh, gets everything all together. They're starting to play music so quickly with all of the equipment that is to be seemingly fast to be set up here. So we get to make our way through this party, and it's really just Michael who's really just getting insulted by a bunch of women, and Michael's going on and stating some absurd car that he says, "Oh yeah, it's a Toyota," and the woman's like, "I don't give a like I'm bouncing," and Michael ends up speaking to this one girl, the insultant's like, "Okay, Heather," so as our characters make their way into this party, Kat starts like slamming all these drinks down, and Patrick is just like, well, hey, like maybe you should slow down a little bit. Like maybe you should go on and just ease up. And at some point, like Kat is even drinking so much so that Patrick is wanting to take the drink away from her. It's like, oh, I think I got this one. But drink after drink after drink. So Cameron is to at some point meet up with Bianca here, and we think that this is going to really lead to something like really happening between the two of them. But then Joey interrupts, and Joey ends up taking Bianca, and is to show her all of his poses. Like, here's underwear. Here's this. Did you see the difference? It's the exact same pose. And then Joey like stacks this beer upon this pyramid. So I think there is also to be a fight at one point at this party as well. Oh, a fight! So at some point, the bigger focus is that Kat is getting up on this table and she's dancing because far too many beers have gone within her. And she's dancing. I think this is Notorious B.I.G. You could correct me if you'd like. And she's dancing, and I'm like, all right, like I can really understand why the actor Kat had went on to do stuff like Save the Last Dance, and yeah, I've seen that movie. Yeah. Point away from male points. Yeah, I've seen everything. I've seen it all. I've seen probably too much. I've seen Step Up too. There were sequels. There were another point away from man points. But anyways, Kat dancing, getting really down. Even Joey's like, "Oh my god, yeah, woo!" Later on, within the shul, all of the guys are to go on and look at Kat and like, "Dance for me, cowgirl, dance for me." You're the bomb girl, yeah. Whatever. Um, whatever they were all saying, I don't remember at all. Joey's like, yeah, save one more dance for me. Yeah, whatever. What jerks. But anyways, Kat is to have gone on and be dancing upon this table, and she is to smack her head upon the chandelier and fall backwards. Patrick, it seems, the only one who really gave a because everybody else is just kind of backing up, and then Patrick was like, I got her. Come on, no. He's like, I got her, luckily. So Patrick catches her and is to walk off with her, and Kat is starting to mention how she's starting to feel sleepy, and Patrick's like, well, you better not go to sleep because you might have a concussion. So Patrick is putting Kat in this chair as Cameron is to interrupt Patrick and be like, hey, do you have a second? And Patrick tells Cameron, like, well, I'm kind of busy right now. And Cameron's just like, well, come on. So Patrick is to listen to Cameron and say, like, hey, man, like, I'm out. Like, I don't think that Bianca's really interested in me. And Patrick is like, nah, I call both. Like, come on. Like, you know what? Like, do you really like this girl? Do you think that she really would like you? It's like, then, like, that's all you need to know. Like, go for it, man. Like, so Cameron at some point is to see like Bianca leaving, and Bianca is to need a ride. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. So and that's when like Cameron is to finally be very blunt and very honest with Bianca. It's like, you never wanted to sail with me, did you? Like, I knew you didn't. You could have just said that you didn't want it. Like, you are so selfish. This, that. So, like, this guy just finally just being a dick to this woman, to be a huge dick, like, a huge deck to this gal. Had Bianca just go like, oh, I guess you do have some balls after all. Big, meaty balls. So, back with Patrick and Kat, you know, the only people that we should probably care about, right? The two of them make their way to this swing, and the interactions between the two of them, as Kat is still a little woozy, she's like starting to just kind of fall over or just kind of fall on this kind of little swing thing and almost fall asleep. And Patrick is like, hey, come on, wake up. Like, trying to keep you alive here. So the more that they talk, we'd finally have these kind of sweeter moments where Kat is to go on and look at Patrick and like, you know what, your eyes have a little green in them. Patrick just lights up like, oh, you actually do care. It seems like you are interested in me. Other than just getting drunk and uh, probably dying from your possible concussion. You could have given her the concussion examination. It's pretty easy. People easily pass with flying colors, even though they probably still have a concussion, it seems. But so, Patrick is just like, oh, wow, yeah, like, she actually noticed me. And then he notices that she's barfing all over his shoes. Her hair is going way over her head. Patrick's like, oh, nice. Yeah, it's great. Like, that's why I'm going to tell you that maybe we should do this again sometime. Instead of walking into those lips and just be like, yeah, give me some of that. Because both Kat and Patrick drive off, and so Kat is consistently like trying to figure out like what Patrick's motives is. Like, there's got to be some reasoning for Patrick wanting to consistently be with her. And there is like this nice moment where Pat and Kat are together, and she's mentioning how like she does things that people don't expect, and that is to be a thing that is to help her like not disappoint people. And Patrick is just like, well, you never disappointed me. And he also smooths it over by like, well, yeah, I know everybody really likes your sister Bianca. Like, she's the bee's knees and all that. She's all that jazz, and she's all that in bag of chips. But she's without. And Kat is just like, well, I guess I wasn't thinking. I guess I didn't think you were to have been as violent as I thought you would. And so she just starts and Patrick's like, this feels wrong. Like, I'm looking at a girl and she is to have been very drunk. Like, I don't think this is the right time. Like, I think there was more of a moral stance than like Patrick probably feeling guilty that he was getting paid for this date. Like, I think really, yeah, like Patrick looked at Kat and she was very drunk, and he made the decision of like she probably would not have gone on and kissed me here if she was sober. So like maybe more than likely that was the hesitation that Patrick really had here. And plus also like she was drunk and he didn't want to take possible advantage of her. Like the white knight that he frickin' is, I guess. Just put him on a pedestal, can ya? Like the first Knight did. Or the Knight's Tale. Yeah, that's the movie, The Knight's Tale. He watches films? No, I don't watch movies. I just know that Heath Ledger is in A Knight's Tale, and he was blonde in that movie. Anyways, pushing on. So, Kat makes her way into class, and we again have the woo, yeah, cowgirl. Woo, yeah. So, Kat is to go on and to hear Mr. Morgan state the next thing that they're going to go on and do in this class. And he spouted this Shakespearean sonnet, it seems. And he's blurted all this out, and Kat is like, huh? Huh? And Kat is to ask the teacher, it's like, well, hey, like, how do you want this paper set up? And Mr. Morgan's like, oh, like, you're not gonna try and debate me on this one. You're not gonna try and persuade me otherwise. And Kat's like, no, I think this is gonna be a really good paper. And Mr. Morgan's like, get out of here. Like, go to the principal's office. I don't want to hear your shit. Like, I'm tired of you. So, Michael now realizing that there's a possibility that Cameron is getting some action here, Michael is getting some of his own. Because Cameron was to have gone on and been very honest with Bianca about the whole, like, you didn't really want to sail with me now, did you? You're so selfish. And by end of all of this bickering, Bianca is probably just looking at Cameron as like, I just want to get him to shut up, so I'm going to just smooch him. Because he's finally had some balls. I'm smooch. And then Cameron is to eventually like, I'm back in the game. Pa! So, going back to Michael is to realize that Mandela is to be a Shakespearean lover, to be or not to be, to a blur of swings and arrows and nonsensical things of which that I can't really remember, because it's been so long since hearing any Shakespearean wordage. Yeah. So, slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Anyways, pushing on. So, there ends up being thrown a lot of Shakespearean stuff in the later kind of portions of the film, and I'm just like, what was that? Huh? Yeah. I had gone on and at some point done a play, because again, man points away. Kiss Me Kate was the play, and luckily there wasn't any kind of real like Shakespearean things going on in that. But I'd also like had auditioned for another role, but like realized I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna get this role. But I wanted to play a bad guy, but like obviously it was all for naught. I was like, yeah, like I don't think I'm gonna be able to go on and get this kind of character, because like I thought that it was a little bit out of my range. But anyways, Michael and Mandela, Michael is to state like how much he is to be in favor of Shakespeare as well, and it seems that they are, both Mandela and Michael, to just like, oh, okay, all right, like we'll see where this goes. So Cameron talks to Patrick and is to tell him, it's like, hey, like what we're doing, all of it is still on. And Patrick is just like, oh, like what changed? And Cameron's like, oh, she kissed me. And Patrick's like, where? Where? Down there? What base? But high five anyways, because so both Kat and Mandela, again, this is another scene where we'd have Kat, who is to find a prom poster, and the girl again running from out of nowhere like, hey! Hey! I worked really hard on that. The whole 10 seconds that it was up there, I worked hard on it. That prop department just really had to put that sign and copy it a lot, because you rip and you tear it consistently, mother. But so, Kat and Mandela make their way to eventually talk about prom, and Kat's like, yeah, who goes to prom? Like really just foreshadowing to us that this is going to be a girl that is to be so against prom and so vicious natured against it that guess who's going to go to prom by the end of this film? Guess who? But Kat is like, yeah, like, I don't want to go to prom. And Mandela's like, well, I do. I want to go. Go with me, Kat. Go with me. No. So, transition to now, Bianca is in archery class, it seems. And she's going to put a fork in one of her teachers, Mr. Chapin. Or Chapin? I'm gonna go with Chapin because it sounds like Chapin, and you know what I'm saying. Anyways, so Chapin. Anyways, moving on. So Bianca is talking to Joey and putting an arrow into somebody, and again, with Joey trying to put the moves on Bianca, it's all for naught because really it's to have Bianca just be like, well, yeah, like my sister isn't dating, so like, so this isn't gonna go down like you think, Joey. So Joey then turns around to Patrick, and it's to give him more money. It goes from 50 to then 100. So Patrick, of course, is to again be incentivized to figure out a way to bump into Kat because it's been a couple of days. Like, yeah, you should kind of let it sit for a couple of days because she's still mad at you and she'll smack you in the head with a soccer ball because obviously she's still mad because you didn't do that smooching like she wanted last night. She wanted you, Patrick. She wanted those lips, those succulent lips. Uh, but so Kat is to try and figure out a way to bump into, or so Patrick is finding a way to try to bump into Kat again to figure out a way to like, hey, like, are you still mad? Do you think I can go on and just kind of like figure out a way to get us back on track because I got some money? So Patrick at first is to look in on Gil's music where Kat is listening to this music and she's getting into it. She's like, yeah, oh, yeah. It's a very slowed down power ballad. Who loves me? Why do you come here when you know that your troubles are gone? Why do you come here? I don't know the song. That's the all I can remember. So, I've watched this movie probably more than once, but still, there's some things that escape me. So, Kat, it seems, is to be getting into her music, but Pat is getting into the library to meet up with Kat. So Patrick is to kind of go through the shelf that Kat is also kind of thumbing through on the opposite side. Then Patrick ends up asking Kat, like, have you seen the Feminine Mystique? I'm looking for her. Can you help me out? So Patrick is to just kind of look at Kat and just be like, hey, can we finally just work this out? You know, can we finally just like figure out a way that I can just kind of get back in your good graces? What do I need to do? And Kat is still just like, I'm not having it. Here's your book. I'm outie 5,000. So Patrick now with Cameron and Michael, and like, hey man, like, how's it going? Like, come on, let's go. And so Patrick is just like, I don't know. And so Michael is like, did thou detest too much and this and that and like all this like Shakespearean stuff Patrick is just like, don't say that shit to me. People can hear you. And so he walks off after Michael is to also say his Shakespearean, or so after Michael is to say it, then Cameron to say some Shakespearean lovish like stuff. Michael turns to Cameron and is like, hey, don't say that shit to him. Like, people can hear you. It's like he wants some masculine points. He wants them back. Gryffindor stole them. So Patrick decides that he's like, okay, like, freaking all is lost with Cat here. Like, I am a brick drowning slowly here, and so I need to go on and take this dinero that I have achieved, and Patrick shoves this money to this marching band director, and is to make his way onto the track and field, and is to be adjusting some of the levers upon these speakers and microphones to belt out a just jamming mojo-ish song to just have Patrick get his groove back here. So Patrick ends up singing Can't Take My Eyes Off of You from Frankie Valli. So can't take my eyes off of you, you're like heaven to touch, I want to hold you so much. And love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive, you're too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. Da, 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 da. The marching band starts to go on, and he's like, I love you, baby. And then he's going in, like, flinging his legs up and down as the cops are making their way to try and arrest him. Yes, I said arrest him. And so these are probably rented cops or so like, I don't think they really care about actually arresting Patrick here. But so Patrick realizes as he's had here, as Kat is just like, oh my god, he's saying this song for me. And he's like, oh, she's like, oh, look, everybody, this is a great moment. Oh. Like, he's showing his love for me, that he really did want to go on and smooch, but he was just like, no, you're a drunk woman. That's why I didn't want any of that. I want to make sure you are pure sober to give you this loving, tender moment. So, I am really getting too much into this, and I shouldn't, because man points. So, Patrick, again, is to slap one of the rented cops on the butt. Is like, yeah. He's running too quickly. He's running away from the cops. So, that leads to Patrick getting into tension. And Mr. Chapin, I'm going to go with Chapin because it sounds good, is to go on and look at some of these students. And he looks at one of the kids. It's like, you're very sweaty, huh, kid? Your eyes are all butt-shot. Like, I bet you smoke pot. The kid's like, yes, sir. And he hands him the weed. He's like, I'm confiscating this. Then he ends up seeing the Cheetos and like, I'm going to confiscate this too. Because I'm going to get high later on. Woo! Give me some Cheetos. So, I'm like, why is this scene here? Why does this scene need to be here? But then, Kat Moreland is to give us an amazing reason for that scene. So, Kat is to go on and to talk to her coach, and is to, like, figure out some strategy for their next game. It's like, yeah, Mr. Chapin, like, I think I figured out a way that we can go on and we can beat the next team. And the coach is like, oh, how is that? And Kat is like looking at Patrick, is like, get out the window. And Patrick's like, huh? Did you just say Shiblingo? Did you say let my people go? What? Make my monster grow? What did you say there? Hobo? Where? It's like window. It's like, oh, window. Oh, okay. Well, I'll make my way around. Just go on and distract him there. Just really figure out a way to just get his full attention. Don't go as far as disrobe, but like go all out. So Kat goes on and is to try and like get her teacher, is like tossing. It's like, yeah, when we go left, they go right, and the coach is like, well, like, how do we get them to just be so distracted? And she's like, this. And she whips up her shirt, whips just the shirt, and we'd have everybody just going wild, like, oh my god. The teacher's just like, oh. And Patrick is just like, ooh, PG-13 relationship. And then he makes it out the window because he knew that she did a little bit of that flash. And then in the later part of the movie, he ends up kind of bringing it up. It's like, yeah, I never knew that a girl would be a person who would flash for me. Kat is like, oh, you scoundrel, you. Anyways, so the two of them make their way onto this paddle boat. I say paddle boat, like the bike pedals, and like the two of them are on this boat and they're talking again for a conversation of which that I don't exactly remember exactly, but I do remember that they were on the paddle boat. So the two of them together talking, it seems, again, and this of course leads the, like, I think it's at some point like they're trying to really get to know one another. And eventually they're going to ask one another, it's like, well, like, the thing about you and the thing about you, like, is it true, like all the stuff that we've kind of heard whispers about, like, so. But all of this pedaling of this boat is to eventually get this place that is just to be called Paintballs. I don't know why I'm consistent saying balls in that way, but it's also a joke that is to run its course at some point, right? So, yeah, so Patrick turns to Kat, it's like, well, hey, you game? So the two of them are smacking these balloon balls at one another that are filled with paint. So this, I guess, is even before like paintball guns, and like, I guess, like, they just had to do something unique and interesting for this movie, and this has to just be it. So they're slamming balloon balls at one another, painted balls, and it seems that Kat is doing fairly well, but then Patrick comes in and he's like, pa, pa, slam on the head, giving her possibly another concussion. Kat falls back into the hay. Patrick is to take his goggles and sling them and just be like, okay, let's finally give that smooch, because at least you're sober and I'm just into you, woman. So the next thing up is the two of them are actually, this is where they get to, like, oh, was that whole duck thing true? No. Like, where have you been at some point? And Patrick's like, well, we'll save that for later. So Kat and Patrick, again, this is where also Kat is wanting to figure out why Patrick wants to be with her. And again, it's just to want to be within her company. And Kat's like, there's some motive there. There's something there. Like, I'm going to keep wedging into that that answer. I'm going to figure out why by the end of this film, foreshadowing to all that happening. So Pat ends up going for a cigaretto, and Kat grabs it and is like, toss it away. Like, no, like, I thought you were going to be the man that I wanted you to because you already know the list of things that will tick me off. So, now back to Cameron and Bianca, who seemingly haven't been in enough in this film. So, Cameron is going on and asking about where the pencil is, and like, he's trying to figure out how to say all these French words, and Bianca is just well and beyond like everything that Cameron is saying. So Bianca is just like, well, maybe it's up your ass. And so she storms off, and Cameron's like, well, what page is that from? So Cameron realizes that he's miserably failing here, but it seems that Michael isn't striking out. So Mandela ends up opening her locker to come to find that she is to find a prom dress and a note. If everyone join me at the prom, I will be waiting. Love, William S. Since Mandela is to be such a real like dream date for William Shakespeare, who is sadly enough passed away, Michael is to hope that he can go on and be that secret admirer that Mandela is to have. Like, hey, I don't really care if you just have the groans and the moans for that Shakespeare, but hey, I'm right here, so like just make me your Shakespeare. Come on. And we could just shake us like, yeah, that was a horrible. I knew I was gonna make that joke, but also I didn't want to make that joke. Seconds ago, I thought of it. So we transition to have Walter, who's really getting buff. He's really just slamming it down with that whole, I think it's like a bicep curling, whatever that goofy gadget is. I never have a freaking, no, it's to do sit-ups. It's an easy rocker thing to do sit-ups. Why, I don't know, you would have that gadget, but it seems that he has all kinds of gadgets. He has like this band thing that he tries to like put up, and he like slingshots. By the end of the whole conversation between Walter and I think it's Kat here, or no, it's Bianca, and they're again bickering about like Bianca wants to go to the prom, and Walter's like, oh no, like you're not going to the prom. Like, I know it goes down in proms. Like, also before, like, Walter was to try and go on and warn Bianca and Kat of like, you know what, I had a patient that was 15 years old, and she was giving birth to a child, and it was all about her being like a crack whore, and Walter is just like, well, I don't know, like I don't know what she said. Maybe something from all the drugs that she would have had. But hey, I'm just trying to tell you, like, life decisions. Come on. So, but that's of course when Walter hits Bianca with a like, I'm down. I have the 411, and you're not getting jiggy with anybody. I don't care how dope his ride is. Mama didn't raise no fool. And that's when the thing goes and bloop. But yeah, so Bianca's wanting to go to the prom, and Walter is like, nope, like you aren't gonna go to the prom until your sister does. And so Bianca's like, well, I'm the only sophomore that has gotten asked to the prom, but Kat won't go. It's like, I'm sorry, but hey, I'm the one down. I'm Jiggy. I'm 4-on-1, you know? Too bad. So, Bianca and Kat. Here's the moment where Kat has to go on and finally tell Bianca that her and Joey had dated for a month. And Bianca's like, oh? Like, you guys hit it and quit it? Because come to find out, yeah, Kat did go on and have some intercoursing with Joey only once. And Bianca was like, oh yeah. And so Kat is like, well, yeah, like, I know how horrible of a person he really is. And if anything, I've sworn him to secrecy because I would have gone on and told all the girls how small his dick is. His dick is his deck. He has a very small deck. He has not a lot of wood and very small. So Bianca is just like, oh, okay, so no with the Joey then. But she wants Cameron. She likes the lips of him. She wants some of that. So, come to find out, Walter is sitting by the telly, looking at some hair club for men or something, some kind of solution for his seemingly less locks. But then again, like I'm not insulting a man that is to have really be thinning up there, because dare say I too am to ultimately be a culprit of a man that is to also at some point wanting to just be Mr. Clean. Shave it all off, just anyways. But anyways, it seems that everybody is to go on and just like me with hair, so I dare say have to figure out a solution to that. I'll keep it. I'll tell. Why am I going into this? Huh. So, Walter's all of a sudden seeing Bianca, and she's all dressed up, and that's because he's already seen Kat like be running out the door like, hey dad, I'm going to prom. And Walter is like, oh, funny, sweetie. But then all of a sudden Bianca and Chastity are there, and or no wait, Bianca's just there because Chastity goes on and dates or gets picked up by Joey. Kind of getting all my ducks hopefully in a row, you know? So Bianca is like, well, like, Kat already left, and like, and so she's like belting out all of this. It's like, well, like, I guess Kat is already gone, so I think I should go based on the set of rules and this and that. And Walter's just like, okay, like, so Cameron opens the door and he's trying to be very cordial with Walter and wants to shake his hand, and Bianca grabs Cameron and they go off to the prom, and Walter goes like, I know every cop in town, bucko. Let me clean my gun. So now we're at prom, and the big breaking news is Mandela is looking for Michael. So he's like, where could he be? I hope that he showed up. So Mandela is scouring around, and also whoever is to have gone to prom, let me know in the comments below if you went or not. I went. I didn't go with anybody, but eventually I found someone there, and I just spent time with her. So that was great. Girl was Ashley. I know because I had spent uh, some time before the prom with her in an acting class, and really, I'm just like narrowing down who this girl was. But hey, like she was really nice. She really was. Like she didn't have to go on and just be with this schlub, but hey, she went there. So let me pause here for a second. All right, back on Dawson, kids sleeping in each other's beds. Uh, so Mandela is to go on and in desperation be like, "Where is he? Where is my Michael?" And Michael is to be on the stage with his red, uh, just very interesting get up. It's like, "Hey, I'm here, woman. I'm here for you. Doth mother know you wear the drapes?" That's Avengers. That's not Shakespeare. So I got blisters on my fingers. That's Yes Man. The Jim Carrey film. So the two of them are like, okay, let's dance it out. Patrick and Kat are looking at one another like, oh, like, so you had a dress for the prom? Yeah, I just had it lying around, and it's like, oh, Patrick, where did you get your tux? Oh, I just had this lying around. Yeah, we didn't already know that we were going to go to this dance because we knew all along where this movie was heading. Yeah, and plus also like they should have just said, oh, I got this from the wardrobe department. Let's break the fourth wall here. So Patrick and Kat are dancing, and Patrick goes on to tell Kat, it's like, well, yeah, I was in Michigan, and Kat's like, oh, and he's like, yeah, like I was in Michigan. I think he was taking care of his mother, or something with the. But yeah, like he watched like Price is Right and all these things for just a good long while. So Bianca is to make her way into the bathroom where she's talking with Chastity, and Chastity mentions how Joey had a bet going, and he was gonna nail her tonight, Bianca. And Bianca's like, oh, but like it seems that all was for naught, and so Joey ended up with Chastity here. So Joey then goes on to confront Patrick. Is like, well, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, no, wait. Let's backpedal here. Joey ends up going on to confront Cameron, who's dancing with Bianca, and what ends up happening is Joey is just a little upset because it's like, well, hey, you've been going after this girl, and like this is gonna be my girl, and this and that. So Joey punches Cameron and then turns around and is to be met by Bianca, who's like, "Pa!" It's like, that's for punching my date, and this is for sleeping with my sister. Pa! Right in the nuts. And Joey goes down. He's like, "Oh, my nose! I have a shoot tomorrow." Goes down. So Patrick and Kat, like, this is where they find out about the whole bet going, and from another source rather than Patrick finally divulging it to Kat. Because after that whole Michigan thing, Patrick should have just been like, "Ooh, gee, like, should I go on and tell her? Should I not go on and tell her?" So Patrick is talking to Kat, and Kat is like, "Oh, so there wasn't any incentive for you to go on and date me?" And Patrick is like, "Well, yeah, there was the money, but that wasn't it. Like, I started to fall for you. I really did like you, and so no matter what Patrick can say here, Kat doesn't like liars, and it feels that technically this never came up, so Patrick didn't like. Well, it kind of came up because again, like Kat was consistently kind of like, well, what's the motive of you dating me? Like, why are you here? Like, why? And Patrick just kind of swerved it here and swerved it there. So he figured out our answers earlier on, but then when it finally came down to it, it's like the only real answer was to just fully tell her the truth, knowing that she was going to probably have 10 things to hate about him. So Patrick is like, hey, it wasn't the money, it was you. It was you, woman. Why do you think I just hung out with you so much so and I locked lips with you? I could have just figured out a way to just hold myself against you, but no. There was love there, woman. There was love there all along. I'm going really off the rails here, my bad. Let's get back into it. So Kat storms off and Patrick's like, no! We were having such a nice moment, all ruined by Joey and his underwear ads. Why? So Patrick is to be all just saddened and boo-hoo. So transition back to now Kat, who is going off to just kind of do some reading, and Bianca is going sailing with Cameron, and Bianca's asking Kat, it's like, well, hey, do you want to go? Like, come on, we've really built up a rapport between one another, and we've finally divulged some secrets, and I found out you had some black panties, and we really got very close here. I beat the heck out of a guy for you. we're good, right? So Bianca leaves, and so Walter ends up talking to Kat, and Kat ends up telling Walter, it's like, well, yeah, she just beat the heck out of a guy last night. Are you surprised? And Walter's like, no, it's actually nice that some of you is rubbing off on her. And so Walter's to just kind of break it down, it's well, yeah, if anything, Bianca will let me pitch a couple innings or bat a couple innings, but for you, you always force me to ride the bench. When you go on to Sarah Lawrence, I'm not even going to be able to watch the game. And Kat's like, oh, I'm going to Sarah Lawrence? And Walter's like, well, yeah, I already paid. I already paid your tuition. You're going. Oh, yeah, hug, yeah. Get that family tender moment right in there. Yeah, just do it. Just have a good time. So we have Mr. Lawrence, who's putting up a poetry slam going on. Can we have a scat thing going on here? Scooby-Dap! Bap-de-bap. So Mr. Morgan is like, okay, I open the floor for anybody to come up on here and vent for a little bit. So Kat, of course, is to be the first one, hand up, and Mr. Morgan's like, "Oh God, like, let's get this over with. You have a real long monologue that you have to go on and just spout out here. So, like, let's get this moment up so you can cry and give us the best moment in this frickin' film. Can you, Kat? Can you deliver the best moment in this movie? I dare you." Because you will. So, Kat goes up and she whips out this thing. And she starts going on and muttering how she hates somebody's combat boots. The way he drives, the way he wears his hair, even when he stares. And she hates the way he didn't call. And then she hates the way that she doesn't hate him, not even a little bit, not even at all. Not a dry eye in the frickin' room. I'm crying. I'm like, here's my man cards. Take them. Take them all. All the cards in the world. Cause it's frickin' legitimately awesome. And so Pat is just like, yeah, like, I guess you really do, like, still love me, so I should figure out a way to just butter you up. Because this is almost the ending of this film, sadly enough. You had to give me this whole speech so late in the game. So, again, I'm, like, completely forgetting about anything to do with Bianca or Cameron here. Like, all of that is just completely forgotten here because this story is so vital. So, the very tail end of all of this is to see Kat happy. And what better way for her to go to her car to realize that there is a guitar within it. Because Kat had stated in the early part of the movie that she wanted to go on and she wanted to do that. She wanted to be in a band. And Patrick took that and is like, oh, okay, all right. Like, well, you spend so much freaking time at Gil's music, so, like, you gotta really have this dream. Like, you really gotta, like, see this out. So, Patrick being very observant of the guitar that Kat had chosen in the early part of the film, Patrick's like, I'm getting that. Like, I know that she wants it, and so, like, I'm gonna put her first. Take all this money that I was accumulating, I'm gonna spend it on that Fender strap. So Patrick goes on to come up behind Kat. It's like, well, hey, do you like the guitar that I bought you with my money? Because guess what? You just divulged that you didn't hate me. Well, I don't hate you either. So Kat is like, oh, that's what you did with all that money. And he's like, yeah, I did. And it's like, well, what are you going to do next the next time that that ever there's going to be a problem? It's like, well, like, you're starting a band, I might as well give you a drum set, a bass, maybe sometime a tambourine. Like, I better do something for the girl that flashed for me to get out of detention. Kat is like, oh, you do love me. Oh, let's smooch it out. So that's how we kind of play this movie out. And then we have the band that is performing on top of the school. Oh, also in the prom, we had Patrick, who was a call in a favor and get Kat's favorite band to play. And so, like, both of the bands are just kind of chiming in to do this one song. And so this band is to be playing by the finale of this. And so like for those of you, we do have some after credit stuff, some fun blooper reels. Bizarrely, Miss Perky is is banging some guy in the blooper reel. Um, Michael and Cameron are having this bizarrish uh moment where Michael is like, yeah, like you don't want that girl. If anything, you want me. Ooh. And then he jumps him, and Cameron's like, oh, come on. So there's one point where they're driving with the car, and somebody jumps on the windshield and flips over, and the guy in the background's like, ha! Like, I watched the whole film. I didn't remember about the blooper reel, but then I started to really enjoy the blooper reel. Uh, so yeah, there is some after credits fun. But with this one, I'm gonna get the heck out of here because I realized that this movie was probably an hour and a half, and I went well over that. So F it. I'm gonna get out of here. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about this film. Like it if you probably somehow liked it, I guess. Subscribe if you're brand new to all this, as if you're really gonna go on and do all that jazz. You've worked hard enough. You put in the view. That's all you need to do. Come on. So with that said, I'm gonna get the out of here. I'm gonna get the flock of seagulls out of here because I feel that I possibly can bust out another review, but I say that all the time, and then I only do the one. So if anything, maybe if I could go on and double dip here, maybe I'll save my self a day, um, and have one day where I can just have this free day where I can um, kind of not feel under the gun. But for this one, I'm outie. I'm out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.